hidden toolbox. You need math to measure, give a quote, plan, and solve problems at work. No matter the trade you choose, math is part of the day. Carpenters
I ain't
measure.
gonna lie, bro. Fuck that. Let's do this shit. Let's turn all this shit. What the fuck are these questions, man? Easiest shit ever. It's the first one I don't know. I'm thinking 10 years. Let's go. Ooh. Oh, bad. Ever? Yeah. Okay. Hold up. Shit's still stuck on the man. Ew. Easy. Come on now. Come on. Easy. Domestic refrigerators. I didn't even read that question. I didn't read that one either. It's clicking shit. Okay. Good. Take a little 80%.
In this introductory module, start by taking an overview
Yo.
of the exam. We will take a look at which is taking EPA 608 exam, what each EPA 6 certification allows you to do.
EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency. It is the
Do we know this already?
The purpose of EPA Section 608 is to regulate substances
Okay.
in order to service or dispose of appliances.
Okay.
For example, refrigerant chemicals used in refrigeration. If you are a standard HVAC tech, it is likely that you will need EPA 608 certification.
Know this?
The law is subject
We
to.
know.
The EPA may update regulations to make them more strict.
Fuck the. I ain't gonna lie. Damn. Yeah, I'm saying all of these, nigga. Fucking all of these. Yeah. We right.
There
Come
are
on.
4 types of
Come on
EPA
now.
608 certification. All types of EPA certification include EPA Core, which comprises essential content necessary for all certifications.
Yeah, I did not need to know.
The type of certification that you will need depends on what types of systems you will be working on.
Awesome.
The 4 types of certification are Type 1 certification, Type 2 certification, Type 3.
We already know this.
All EPA certifications contain 25 questions from EPA.
Oh, wait. 25 questions, that's it? Ooh, I didn't know. Let's go back. You're moving too fast.
For example, if I want Type 1 certification, there will be 25 questions on the content on EPA Core
Okay.
and 25 questions on Type 1 specific content.
Ooh. Definitely paid attention.
Type 1 certification is needed if you are servicing small appliances that contain restricted substances. Small appliances are defined as appliances containing 5 pounds of refrigerant or less. An example of a small appliance would be a household refrigerator or freezer.
What? Yeah, we wanted Type 2. What the? Good for you. So, like, oh my God. Oh, yeah. It's like the Holy Grail here. Damn. Fuck would I want a 609? All right, fuck it. We going big, nigga. Fuck it. We getting. It's a lot of information. This is the first lesson? Real? guess this assumes you already had prior knowledge.
This module brush up on the physical concepts that are the foundation of how refrigeration systems work.
Oh yeah. Woo. Huh.
All that every world around us is made of matter. There are three primary states of matter. In order of increasing temperature.
And oh my god, we know this already. What? Like what the fuck? Like
the state that a substance is in depends on both its temperature and pressure. If we change the pressure, temperature, or both, we can change the state of the substance.
what? No way.
For example, an ice cube is in solid form.
Let's not even do that.
If you want to put an ice cube in a pan and heat it
I'm
up,
not even gonna
its
say it
temperature
today.
will increase until it becomes a puddle of water. It is then in liquid form. This is an example of state change due to an increase in temperature.
Notice?
In the same example, as you continue to heat up the water, it will increase in temperature until it bubbles up and becomes steam. The steam that leaves the pan is water in its vapor phase.
Okay.
Decreasing temperature can also change the state of a substance. If we put water, we can also change the state of a substance by as mentioned in the video, increasing the pressure acting on a bubble changes the vapor to liquid. Decreasing the pressure acting on the bubble changes liquid to vapor.
Alright. Got the water, man. How'd that happen? And I didn't have to hit the restart capture button. Ugh. Oop. Ugh. Oh yeah.
Add heat to water. The water molecules begin
my
moving
god.
faster.
Oh my god.
And some of them spread out and form a gas. We call that gas
Yo.
water vapor.
Think of water. In liquids such as water, there are bonds between molecules that keep the molecules together. The bonds between molecules are what make liquids appear as tangible masses that we can see and recognize as liquids.
Yeah, this shit is
Recall that
cannot be
temperature is a
real,
measure
gang.
of how fast the
Yo.
molecules are moving in a substance, on average. The higher the temperature, the faster the molecules are moving inside the substance. For example, molecules in a hot coffee would be moving faster than cold coffee.
Oh, this?
When we add heat to a substance, we are increasing its temperature and making the molecules move faster until they overcome those bonds between them.
Okay.
As temperature increases, the molecules overcome their bonds, and they no longer form a liquid. Instead,
we're
by
cooking.
overcoming those bonds,
Okay.
molecules process of boil. Remember, we need to add heat to a ice. This heat is drawn from your. This is what.
So this is education. Yo! Where do I output? Oh, restream. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I really. Alright. I like Mike. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're cooking here.
The boiling point is a
We're
temperature
cooking, man.
where a liquid changes phase to a vapor. Each substance has its unique boiling point depending on its physical properties.
Yo.
Recall that the boiling point of a substance depends on pressure. If we want to boil, the boiling point of pure water, for example, is
We know
200.
this.
Note that the boiling point will also be different if your substance is not pure water. If we are heating up pure water and the temperature doesn't reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the water will not change to vapor. For example, if we heat up the pure water,
I just
if the
skip past
temperature
this.
of the water is close to 212
Like,
degrees
I feel like I
Fahrenheit,
should have just
you will
skipped
see a
past this.
few bubbles forming. This is because the bottom of the pan is in contact with the heat source, so it gets hot faster than the top of the pot. So the bubbles indicate that some
What?
the condensation point is the temperature at which vapor turns to liquid.
You just give me dumbass questions.
Note that the condensation point is the same as the boiling point for pure substances. That means if you have pure water vapor at 250 degrees Fahrenheit and you let it cool, the water vapor will condense into liquid. Both the boiling point and condensation point are properties of pure substances only.
Bruh.
As temperature of a substance is decreased, the substance also changes state. For our purposes,
Yo. It's too much, bruh.
in the video, ice
Like-
cubes
like-
are placed on top of the cup to
I'm not using any of. It's like it's just,
remove heat from air under the cup. Condensation occurs when temperature is decreased, changing vapor to liquid. To reiterate, you need to remove heat from a substance to change state from vapor to liquid.
like,
Decreasing temperature.
I feel like I'm just wasting my time. I already know. Good refresher, I guess. Okay.
See this
Nigga. Oh, really?
review remains.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's all of them because that's just in the heat. Yes. Making your all of them. $212. Oh, wait, hold up. Not gonna lie, I don't know that. No, I'm not gonna lie to you. Hold on. That went for now. Where the So we can do this until the test. Test is proctored. It's not an exam, we're good. With the exams, nigga, come on. Ooh. Wait. Oh, okay. None of these are negative, so it had to be less than 212, nigga. $23 highest. Solid. Show. Oh. Oh yeah. Easy no. Come on. Ah, yeah. Come on. Come on.
In this module, we will go over the refrigeration cycle and how it works to provide cooling.
Woo.
We will use the concepts we talked about in the previous module to understand this. The refrigeration cycle is what makes your air conditioning, refrigerator, or any other refrigeration system work.
No way. Ah, yeah. Ah, fuck yeah.
In your daily life, you are likely surrounded by comforts made possible by the refrigeration cycle, especially during the hot summer months. The refrigeration cycle is what powers your air conditioning unit and, on a smaller scale, your refrigerator.
Oh, we skipped one.
Air conditioners pull off the seemingly magical feat of making the air inside a home, car, or shopping mall deliciously chilly. Air conditioning, as well as refrigeration, which is the same thing, just in a slightly smaller box, relies on the laws of physical chemistry. And PChem tells us that as a liquid evaporates into a gas, it absorbs heat. The molecules in a liquid are held together by weak intermolecular interactions. Not quite chemical bonds, just enough passing attraction to keep them from flying apart. Some of the molecules absorb enough heat energy, in other words, they get moving fast enough, to overcome these intermolecular attractions, escape, and take gaseous form. That's the reason you feel chilly getting out of the shower, and why we sweat to stay cool. The water has to absorb heat to evaporate, and it carries that heat away from you. An air conditioner's basic job, then, is to use a fluid called a refrigerant that constantly changes from a liquid to a gas and back to a liquid again to move heat from one place, like your sweaty bedroom, to another, outside, where it's already hot and miserable anyway, so who cares? Here's a admittedly very schematified version of how most AC units work. The liquid refrigerant flows through a series of coils exposed to the air in your home. The refrigerant has a low boiling point, so the heat from the interior air is enough to make it turn into a gas, which means there's now more heat in the refrigerant and less in the air. A fan blows that colder air into your room, or straight into your face. We're not judging. So now your AC has to do two things. Dump the heat absorbed by the refrigerant outside, and two, it has to condense the refrigerant back into a liquid so it can be used again. And to do those things, it uses a compressor to ramp up the pressure on the gaseous refrigerant, so much that it can condense into a liquid again, even though it's at the warmer outside temperature. As it condenses, the refrigerant loses heat to the air around it, which another fan blows outside where it's already all sticky anyway. Which is a neat trick, boiling something at a low temperature and then condensing it at a high one. Nothing in thermodynamics is free, and the compressor needs energy to do the work of compressing the refrigerant, which may explain your power bill in July. After the refrigerant condenses, the air conditioner backs off the pressure with an expansion valve, so that the refrigerant can boil at the lower temperature again, which it does, in a loop, over and over, until your home reaches the temperature you set the thermostat to, or your housemates complain and switch it off because, what are you, a polar bear or something? Jeez. While the refrigerant could be practically any substance, there are some chemicals that do the job better than others, and these refrigerants have a checkered history. A refrigerant needs to have a pretty low boiling point, and one that can be adjusted to where you want it by changing the pressure on it. It should also be pretty good at conducting heat and be able to absorb a lot of heat as it boils. And then it needs to be cheap, widely available, and as non-flammable and non-toxic as possible. That all kind of narrows your choices of chemical. Scientists thought they'd found the perfect refrigerant with Freon, which is the trade name of a group of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons. But CFCs are actual murder to the ozone layer. They've been largely replaced with hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs. HFCs don't damage the ozone layer, which is good, but they have a different problem. They're greenhouse gases. So the search is on to phase out HFCs too. Some alternatives? Simple hydrocarbons like these have been approved in the USA. Hydrofluoroolefins like this one are less rough on the climate than HFCs, but also more expensive. The most surprising potential replacement is CO2. CO2 totally works as a refrigerant. And even though it's the literal poster child for greenhouse gases, it's also way less potent than HFCs. Whatever we use in the future, it doesn't seem likely that we'll give up on AC altogether. Not in a scorching summer like this one. Has the popsicles.
Alright. Cool. Definitely learned something.
As mentioned in the video, air conditioning works by absorbing heat from your indoor air and ejecting it outdoors. It uses a refrigerant to do this. A refrigerant is usually a liquid that's used in refrigeration systems to absorb heat.
Oh yeah. Fuck.
Think of a vacuum. With a vacuum, we capture dust and dirt and move it to the trash. This is the same concept. But instead of capturing dirt, we are capturing heat and moving it outdoors. It does this by passing a refrigerant with a low boiling point through a series of coils that come in contact with warm indoor air. Recall that a boiling point is the temperature at which liquid turns to vapor. In the refrigeration cycle, we use refrigerants with low boiling points. Because refrigerant have lower boiling points, they will boil at a lower temperature than your indoor temperature on a hot day. This is so that your indoor air is hot enough to make the refrigerant boil. For example, a hot summer day would be around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. A typical refrigerant, R134A, has a boiling point of minus 15.34 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the hot summer air is above the boiling point of the refrigerant would boil at that temperature.
Oh. Okay.
The most commonly used refrigeration system is called the direct expansion vapor compression system. For example, this type of system is found in both your air conditioning as well as your refrigerator.
Okay.
Direct expansion systems are systems where the cooling effect comes from the expansion of a liquid to a vapor. If we think about water vaporizing to steam, the steam rises up and fills the air. This is the expansion behavior of vapors.
Connecting the dots. Okay. You gotta be. Yo. Clean. I just split. Yo.
As the refrigerant boils, it changes state from liquid to vapor. As mentioned in the previous module, this process is also called vaporization, as the refrigerant is changing from liquid to vapor. Recall that during vaporization, or boiling, you need to add continuous heat until all liquid has changed state to vapor. The heat that is needed to change phase is called latent heat.
Okay.
Think about boiling a pot of water. You apply heat to it by turning on the stove, which increases the temperature of the water. Once the water reaches its boiling point, it starts to bubble and turn into steam, which leaves the pot and dissipates into the air. If you keep the stove on, you are continuously applying heat to water that is already at its boiling temperature. More and more water molecules will become steam, which is also known as water vapor. If the stove is left on, the water in the pot will decrease until all the water eventually turns to vapor. You've probably seen this if you've accidentally left the stove on too long. Either the pot has completely dried up or there is much less water than before. This is because water has changed state into vapor. In the refrigeration cycle, instead of water, you have refrigerant boiling. And instead of a stove flame, it is the hot indoor air that is providing heat for refrigerant to completely boil. This process is what draws heat away from your indoor air and provides cooling.
Okay. Say, oh yeah. Okay.
To reiterate, it is the boiling or vaporization of refrigerant that provides cooling in a refrigeration system. This is similar to the example mentioned in the video, where if you have water on your body, you will feel cold as it evaporates. As the refrigerant moves through the refrigeration cycle, it effectively transfers heat from inside the house to outside the house.
Oh, okay.
In the refrigeration cycle, refrigerant absorbs heat from your indoor air by using that heat to boil, changing state from liquid to vapor. We choose refrigerants with a low boiling point in order for this to happen. Refrigeration cycle and what happens in
In this module, we will go over the individual components of the refrigeration cycle. We will also discuss what happens to the refrigerant in each component and the function of each component.
Aside from the refrigerant flowing through the system, the four key components of a refrigeration cycle are evaporator, compressor, condenser, metering device, also known as a thermal expansion valve, TXV.
Oh no.
We're taking a look at a refrigerator here to show you the basic components, and we'll also look at it in the lab as well to show you what they physically look like in real life. So up here on the top left hand of my screen, you see I have a condensing unit outside and I have a fan coil with an evaporator coil on the inside. It could easily be a furnace with an evaporator coil as well. So inside the home or inside the building, the job of that coil is to absorb heat from the house, transfer that heat through the piping, and then dump that heat into your yard, right? So that's how we're actually doing stuff. We're not actually making your house cold. I mean, we are, but we're really removing the heat from a house and dumping it outside into your yard. Now, it's kind of weird because heat always goes from hot to cold. So we're taking it from your cool house and putting it into your hot yard. It's kind of weird. So we got to play a little bit games with the pressures to make that happen. Pressure, temperature, and volume are inherently connected to one another. And if I have a fixed volume like I have on a refrigerant piping system, and I change the pressure of something, the temperature must change. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. So we got those things work together no matter what.
Okay.
So when I look at the piping diagram here, I have four major components on a refrigeration cycle. I have my condenser coil.
I can't even stream this on Facebook, man. It's too much game, man.
Out in your yard,
I gotta
it's
stream
part of
this
your
on
condensing
TikTok
unit.
too for the
I have a
real
compressor, which is also part of your condensing unit. Then inside the building, I have my evaporator coil and my TXP.
Too many fake news on
And the
Facebook,
TXP and
man.
evaporator coil are
need this
typically in
information.
one assembly as well. So visually, it looks like I have two things, but really there's four major components of the refrigeration cycle. The condenser coil and the evaporator coil are doing opposite jobs of each other, and the TXV and the compressor are doing opposite jobs of each other. Evaporator coils absorb the heat. Compressors compress the refrigerant. Evaporator.
Yeah.
From the air of your running coil assembly, that heat raising the temperature of the that heat. Then that refrigerant is going into the compressor. Raise the pressure even more. And starting out, he's leaving the evaporator or in the evaporator coil. Because I raised the pressure from 120. So raising that pressure, the compressor sends that refrigerant to the condenser coil. It's 120 degrees, but my yard's only 90 degrees. So now I can transfer heat from the coil to the yard, to the air outside, because it's going from 120 to 90. So there's a temperature difference there to move the heat. Then inside that condenser coil, as I'm removing the heat from the condenser coil and sending it to the outdoor air, that is lowering the temperature, which eventually causes the refrigerant to condense, which is why we call it a condenser coil. The evaporative and condenser
we know this already.
Go in relation to what's happening with the refrigerant, not what's going on with your air. So it condenses the refrigerant back to a liquid, which is why we call this the liquid line, and that travels over to the TXV. TXV stands for thermal expansion valve. It is a metering type device. Older systems would have had fixed orifices or pistons or something like that. Nowadays, almost everything has a TXV. His job is to meter the refrigerant and control it as it enters into the evaporator, as well as to change the pressure from high back down to low because he's the opposite of the compressor. And then that goes back into the evaporator coil with a lower pressure where it can now begin absorbing heat again.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of our basic refrigeration cycle here. You notice we have some of the pipes labeled on here. The hot gas line between the compressor and the condenser, you don't normally see that. That is internal to a condensing unit. Because the condensing unit, if you recall, has the condenser coil and the compressor all in one. So you don't see that hot gas line typically. The liquid line and the suction line are the two lines that you see going from outdoors back indoors to the inside the building. And then the line between the TXV and the evaporator is typically all in the evaporator coil as well, so you don't see that unless you take the cover off. Here we are in the lab. We have a furnace with an evaporator coil on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
Air from the building or the home is coming through the furnace, because that's where the blower
Love
motor
PVC
is,
glue
running
air.
through the evaporator
Love
coil, where the evaporator coil can absorb heat from the building, and then the air gets cooled down, obviously, when we give up its heat and gets ducted out to the supply. So that heat goes into the evaporator coil, and then that heat will make its way through the suction line.
Nah.
In our case, up over the ceiling in the lab here.
No way.
It'll come down into our condensing unit. And then as it comes in our condensing unit, the suction line comes through here, goes into the compressor, where the compressor increases its pressure and hence increases its temperature. Then it leaves the compressor on the hot gas line. If we follow that pipe all the way around, that hot gas line goes into the condenser coil, where it can use all this surface area to reject the heat to the outdoors.
Okay.
And then when it comes back out of the condenser coil and goes into the liquid line, and then the liquid line will make its way back through the piping system, back into the indoor side of the building. And our liquid line will come in this way. It'll go into our TXV, which is a little tough to see.
TXV!
And then TXV's job, once again, is to lower the pressure and hence lower the temperature. So we have cool refrigerant entering to the evaporator coil, where it's now cool enough where it can absorb more heat from the air. And then that cycle will repeat itself. Hence why we call it the refrigeration cycle.
Oh, yeah. Refrigeration cycle. We love the refrigeration cycle. Not venting gases into the air and stuff like that.
With the evaporator.
Love that. Imagine me locking in this shit today. Nigga, I will put in a 12-hour shift on this motherfucker. I don't care.
In my basic refrigeration description, I talk about the evaporator as being the heat absorber.
My collar's blue and my neck is red.
And that's really what we're trying to do when we're attempting to cool something, is we make the evaporator coil of a lower temperature than either the room or the box, the air going over it, so that way heat goes out of that room or that refrigerator box or that freezer, and the heat is attracted into that evaporator coil. And often for most of the typical basic systems we're working on, we're just flowing air over the evaporator coil, over those fins on that evaporator coil, and then as it passes across that metal and the refrigerant moves through, it's absorbing heat through the metal into the refrigerant. The fins on those coils that you'll often see act as additional surface area to help give it a little bit more contact time, so that as that air is passing over, it has more contact time on the metal, so that way that refrigerant inside that evaporator coil can absorb heat.
Nigga, that's it? Where's the rest of it? Okay. Fuck it.
The evaporator is located inside the home.
Nah!
This is where refrigerant absorbs heat from indoor air, changing from liquid to vapor.
Maybe. Oh, okay. Well, if it's called the evaporator, like. Oh yeah.
As seen in this video, the evaporator coils provide more surface area for hot indoor air to pass over. This increased surface area allows more heat to be transferred to refrigerant inside the coils.
You're gonna do this and then do the math. Fuck that. They ain't even put the math as part of this shit.
Refrigerant
That's just
gets
extra
heated up
knowledge.
past its boiling point, which makes it superheated vapor by the time it leaves the evaporator. This change into a superheated vapor state is indicated in the color change of the coils from blue, liquid, to red and yellow, vapor. Vapor refrigerant is let out from the evaporator to the next component, the compressor.
Okay. We shit. Metering device, nigga. Oh. Compressor.
Talk about this in metaphor. So imagine the room that you're in right now. Whatever room you're in, it's got the four walls that surround you, and then it's got the ceiling. And now imagine that this room that you're in, that you're occupying, is full of ping pong balls. And these ping pong balls, they bounce around perpetually. They're always bouncing. And these ping pong balls, they signify molecules. And so the energy that these molecules contain that causes them...
Nah. Alright, bro.
bounce around, that's heat. But the speed
HVAC school,
that
I
these
ain't know you
molecules or
was
ping pong
doing that,
balls are
man.
moving at, that is temperature. In fact, temperature literally is average molecular velocity. I talk about this a lot on the podcast and in these videos. So when you feel something as hot, what you're really feeling is you're feeling those molecules bouncing around or vibrating very fast in that thing that you touch. When you touch that hot stove, you're literally saying you're coming into contact with molecules that are bouncing around really fast.
And bouncing around real fast.
Your fingertips to bounce around really fast, which can be quite uncomfortable, cause burns, right? So when we experience temperature, we are literally experiencing the molecular velocity of whatever substance. So this, this little bottle of water here that we've got, the temperature that I feel of this water, my fingers are experiencing through conductance the molecular velocity or the speed that the molecules are moving. So back to our room. You have this room
Definitely
full
need to
of
know
these
this.
ping pong balls that are bouncing. Amount of overall energy that they contain is the heat. The speed that they're moving is the temperature, and the ping pong balls themselves are the molecules. And in this case, it's refrigerant. So now imagine that one of these walls begins moving in. So imagine it's sort of like the scene from Star Wars, where the room is getting smaller and smaller, and it's supposed to be crushed, right? And so as the ball moves in, what happens to these ping pong balls? Do they speed up or do they slow down? This ball, as it moves in, is working against the force of those balls bouncing off of it. And as it does that, the speed of those balls as they bounce against the wall and against each other start to increase. The molecular velocity begins to increase of these ping pong balls. And so what happens is the temperature increases. Because again, remember, molecular velocity is temperature, the same thing. And so that's what's happening inside of a compressor. And if you think of this scroll compressor behind my shoulder here, it goes in as vapor. In fact, how it really works inside of a compressor is the suction line, the refrigerant drops into a refrigerant-cooled compressor's shell. It cools the compressor, it kind of mixes with the oil, and then it's pumped out into the head where then it's discharged. And so there is some heat added to the compressor itself to cool it from the different parts inside of the friction, the bearings and all that. There is some heat generated there, but really the bulk of that temperature change that we're seeing from, say, on average, on an air conditioner, and an average suction line temperature would be, say, 50 degrees. And then coming out of the compressor, you'll commonly see about 165, 170 degrees. And so that's a significant difference in temperature, say 120, 130 degree differential. And that differential is representative primarily of that heat of compression, which is, as the compression chamber gets smaller and smaller, the molecules in there are bouncing faster and faster.
TXV!
Faster. And so are you changing the amount of heat? The answer is yes, you are, because there is work that's being done against the forces. But primarily what you're doing is by compacting them into a smaller space, you're taking the heat that was already in that suction gas that already came from inside the house. You're packing those molecules closer together, and you're revealing that heat in a smaller temperature. So a way of thinking about this is when you add pressure, you increase temperature. This is part of the gas laws. When you add pressure, you increase temperature. And by increasing temperature, now we can get that heat back out of the refrigerant
On some
in the
shit?
condenser. So what does the compressor do? Well, it compresses, obviously. Like we said, it causes the refrigerant to occupy a smaller space. In doing so, that increases the temperature. And by increasing the temperature of that suction gas, now we can get the heat back out. Because hot goes to cold. So that's what that compressor does. In addition to that, like we said, with refrigerant-cooled compressors, which is the majority of what you work on if you work in air conditioning or small refrigeration, that suction gas also does serve to cool that compressor. But primarily what's happening is you have that heat coming down that suction line at a low temperature, goes into that room that then squeezes those ping pong balls together. The molecular velocity greatly increases, and now we can run it into the condenser where we can remove the heat from it again, and they slow back down again, and it can then turn into a liquid. So that's just a basic look, and that's one of my favorite metaphors to explain what's going on into a compressor, because when you sit in that room and you imagine those ping pong balls bouncing around, and that's
these nuts bouncing around,
it just gives you kind of a
I imagine these nuts bouncing around.
Envision what's going on, and just remember, in that metaphor, the ping pong balls are the refrigerant molecules bouncing around, and the speed that they're moving or the velocity that equals the temperature. All right, thanks for watching. We'll catch you.
This nigga love the terminology bouncing around. He's nuts bouncing.
After the refrigerant is boiled to a vapor in the evaporator, it is sent through the suction
Bouncing on my wood.
Since refrigerant comes
Bouncing on my wood.
as a superheated vapor, it will enter the compressor as a superheated vapor.
Okay. Oh yeah. Superheated vapor, nigga. Duh. Oh yeah. Come on now. You just said it. Come on.
The compressor's job is to increase the pressure of the refrigerant.
Nah.
All that is pressure increases, temperature increases. This is exactly what the compressor does. We saw a visual representation of that in the previous video.
Shit, I was not looking at that. I'm not gonna lie. Shit. Like, when are you ever gonna see the inside of a compressor, nigga? To increase the pressure, nigga. For sure. Come on. The vapor leaving the compressor is lower in pressure than vapor entering the... What? Nah. Because we're increasing the pressure, right? Wait. Nah. What? Why they phrase that like that? What the fuck?
Refrigerant is then sent from the compressor to the next component, the condenser.
No. Because, like, if it would change state, then what's the point of the TXV? You know? So, yeah. We love TXV. I think that's what I learned in school. Yeah.
Do it. Well, the condenser has to reject heat. That's its job. It's the heat rejector. So it has to reject heat to something. And in this case, it's generally air. And your typical air conditioner at your house, a split system package unit, window unit, whatever, it's generally the air. But it can also be water. It could be glycol. It could be a lot of different substances. It could be another refrigerant that's used. But the goal is to get that heat out of that refrigerant and to something else. Now, that something else that is rejecting its heat to, by its very nature, has to be a lower temperature. As an example, we'll use a typical residential split system. So let's say you have a condensing temperature of 110 degrees, we'll say, and you have an outdoor temperature of 90 degrees. You'll notice there's a 20-degree difference. That outdoor temperature has to be lower than that condensing temperature in order for heat to come out of the refrigerant in the condenser and to be rejected into the air. First rule, hot goes to cold, right? You have to reject heat from the condenser to something that is a lower temperature than the condenser. So when you look at that condensing temperature, and we do that by looking at a gauge, and it tells us what that condensing temperature is, by its very nature, it must be higher than the medium that we are rejecting to. So whereas air is not the best thing to reject heat to, water is better. So those differentials might vary, but regardless, no matter what we're rejecting to, the temperature rejecting to must be lower than the temperature of the refrigerant in the condenser. That's that condensing temperature. It's also useful to know that most condensers are piped, especially the air-cooled types that we work on generally. They're piped so that way the refrigerant starts in the top. So it comes out of the discharge line from the compressor, goes into the top of the condenser, and then works its way down until it becomes fully liquid at the bottom, or subcooled.
TXV!
Again, subcooled is temperature below that condensing temperature. So that's mostly it. Condensers can reject heat to a lot of different types of mediums, but they are all heat rejectors, and they go through the three phases. They all have to. The desuperheating phase that brings it to the condensing temperature, which is that first little bit in the top, And then you have that condensing phase, which is through the bulk of the condenser. And then at the end, that's when you have the subcooling phase, which is the drop below the saturation temperature. You can only have subcool once the refrigerant is fully liquid. You can only have superheat if it is fully vapor, and that condensing temperature segment is all there in the middle. So it's like watching a boiling pot of water, but in reverse. It's changing from liquid to vapor instead of vapor to liquid. That's your
The condenser is located outside the home so that coils containing the refrigerant can come into contact with outdoor air. The condenser's job is to eject heat to the outside air.
So we got two potential answers here. And I got it right.
Refrigerant is sent from the compressor to the condenser via the hot gas line, since refrigerant exits the compressor as a hot, high-pressure gas. As seen in the video, the condenser is housed in the same unit as the compressor. Since the compressor increased the temperature of the refrigerant is now hotter than the outside air. This causes heat to transfer from the refrigerant in the condenser coil to the outdoor air. When heat transfers away from the refrigerant, this cools the refrigerant.
Hold on, I gotta pause that real fast.
In this video, we see the going into the unit. This represents cooler outdoor air.
I guess it said fuck the pause button, nigga. You gonna hear this shit.
It just means that it is at a lower temperature than
Let me restart the capture while I'm doing what I'm doing. Keep freezing. Stupid ass shit.
As outdoor air passes over the condenser coils, it absorbs heat. Air that is exiting the unit is hotter because it has absorbed heat from refrigerant in the coils. This is why the arrows leaving the unit are red. Think of a steaming mug of coffee. Because it is hotter than the surrounding air, heat will transfer from the coffee to its surroundings. You can feel the heat transfer out when you wrap your hands around the mug. Recall that heat transfers from high heat to low heat. This is basically what happens in condenser coils. Recall that as temperature decreases in a substance, it will condense, which is the process of changing from vapor to liquid. As discussed earlier, we see this commonly on windows on a cold day. Heat transfers from water vapor in the air to the cold windows, condensing the water vapor to liquid droplets. In the condenser, heat transfers from the refrigerant to outside air. Refrigerant inside the condenser cools until
I gotta think, bro. Fuck. It's like I can focus on two things at once. But fuck. Let me answer this question. Fuck. In the condenser, the refrigerant changes state. No. Oh, really? Okay.
Refrigerant is then sent from the condenser to the next
TXV.
component, the metering device
Oh, yeah.
or thermal expansion valve, TXV.
TXV. Condenser is doing the opposite job of which component? Nigga. Oop. Oop. Can't do that on the test.
T is a type of metering device, and the purpose of the metering device is to act as a pressure dropper. It's there to create a pressure drop. And so it separates the high side and the low side of the system. If you look at the basic refrigerant circuit, you'll notice that the compressor and the metering device kind of split that circuit in two, where the compressor is the pressure increaser, and then the metering device is the pressure dropper before it goes into the evaporator coil. So think of it in this way. The compressor has to pressurize the refrigerant before it enters the condenser in order to get the heat out, and the metering device has to drop the pressure before it goes into the evaporator coil to get the heat in, because when you drop pressure, you drop temperature. When you increase pressure, you increase temperature. And you have to manipulate temperature in order to get heat in and out of things, which is what we're doing. We're getting smart today, man. We're getting heat in and out of things. So there are several different types of metering devices. You have capillary tubes, you have pistons, you have TXVs, and you have electronic expansion valves. There's a few other more exotic types of metering devices that you'll read about in books, and we're not going to talk about those here. Automatic expansion valves, high side, low side float, systems like that. But we're going to focus on these four and just talk a little bit about what the general purpose of the metering device is. So we know it's a pressure dropper. How does it do it? Well, it drops pressure by basically creating a small passageway that the refrigerant has to go through. So pressure is built up on the inlet side, and then on the outlet side, there is a drop because it goes through a very small area, and then it opens up into a larger volume. So when we think about the relationship between pressure, volume, and mass, we know that if you increase volume, then you decrease pressure. And what we're doing is we're increasing volume because it goes into an evaporator coil out of a liquid line. A liquid line is a smaller line, goes into this larger volume of space into an evaporator coil, so there's an increase in volume. But we're also controlling the amount of flow moving in, so we're controlling how much pressure is able to make it into that evaporator coil. All that said, we end up seeing a pretty significant pressure drop across that metering device. That's what it's
Ooh, okay. Hold up. We might have the method here. Look. Did I just finish that and not even... Okay. Hold up. Yo. Oh. 10 to 12 hours? Okay. Okay, fuck it. No, okay, hold on. We gotta take the shortcut. Fuck it. Okay. I'm doing type 2 first. Bro, what the fuck? Yeah. Wait, do I just hit start? I think that's what happened. Okay, type 2. Okay. That's easy. 500 microns, nigga. Duh. Come on now. Niggas want you to get it to 0. We not doing that. You lucky to get to 500. Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is 6 minutes. 12 minutes. 40. Ooh, no. Fuck. Actually, nah, fuck that. Wait, it's kind of bad design, I feel like. I don't want to take the exam. I just want to. Fuck. Okay, this is 11 minutes. 28, 21, 44, 64. What up? You gotta add up all of this shit. Wait, calculator. It's so nice not having fucking stage mode on. Stage mode be taking you to a whole nother window when you open some shit. Okay. Clear shit. 64. 9. Whole calculator just disappeared. Ugh. Okay. Let's put it somewhere where I won't lose it too much. Okay. Scroll back up. Damn. 38 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay. 23 minutes. Okay. 12 minutes. 14 minutes. Okay. 19 minutes. Shit. $29 minutes. 85 minutes. Okay. $376 minutes. 6 hours. All right, fuck it. Okay, we'll do it. Wait, I just want to start from the beginning because it's like if I'm gonna do it, I might as well do it right. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I picked the quiz and not the fuck it.
This is a reminder.
What's the other day
Do
was?
10 push-ups.
All of these for sure.
This is a reminder. Do 10 push-ups.
50 for sure. If you need, and what's following? The fuck? Ooh. Shit. I don't know that one. Once you pass the EPA exam, the regulations you learn will never change. Yeah, that's false. This one we can just guess. I'm gonna say 75%. Fuck it. Come on. Ooh. Okay. 100. Because it's universal. All of these 100 for surely that one. I still don't know what that one was. False. They give me 4 out of 5 for sure. Come on. I'll take it. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come on. Give it to me, baby. I hate the fact that I have to manually click play. For a fucking image, nigga. Come on now.
An atom is the basic building block of all matter. Ozone is a naturally occurring gas made up of 3 oxygen atoms bonded together. Earth's atmosphere is made up of several layers, as shown.
Okay.
Ozone gas is found in the 2 lowest layers of Earth's atmosphere, the stratosphere and the troposphere.
Oh yeah, let's learn how we destroy the atmosphere with chlorofluorocarbons.
Most ozone is found in the upper atmosphere, where it is produced in small amounts, when the sun's high-energy rays strike ordinary oxygen molecules.
Chlorofluorocarbons. Fuck! Oops. 2. Oh, fuck.
An oxygen molecule is made up of 2 atoms. In the atmosphere, the sun's high-energy rays break the bond between the 2 atoms. Each free atom then bonds with other pairs to form ozone molecules.
Definitely need the video example. Come on.
15 to 35 kilometers above Earth's surface, a gas called ozone surrounds the planet.
The ozone layer acts as a barrier between Earth and ultraviolet radiation from the sun. However, pollution has caused the ozone layer to thin, exposing life on Earth to dangerous radiation. Earth's atmosphere is made up of 6 layers. The second layer, called the stratosphere, contains the ozone layer. The ozone layer is made up of a highly reactive molecule called ozone, which contains 3 oxygen atoms. Ozone is a trace gas in the atmosphere. There are only about 3 molecules for every 10 million molecules of air. But it does a very important job. The ozone layer acts as Earth's sunscreen, absorbing about 98% of damaging ultraviolet or UV light.
As mentioned in the video, ozone is found in the stratosphere and troposphere. The highest concentration of ozone is found in the stratosphere. The dense ozone found in this region is what we refer to as the ozone layer. The sun emits high levels of ultraviolet radiation, which is harmful to humans. The ozone layer protects us from these harmful rays by absorbing and reflecting the radiation before it reaches the Earth's surface. Most of the sun's ultraviolet rays don't make it past the stratosphere. Ozone can also be found in the lowest layer of the atmosphere, the troposphere. When it's this close to ground level, it is mainly in the form of smog. Smog is a type of ozone created by chemical reactions between pollutant emissions and sunlight. Smog is considered a harmful pollutant because of its effects on humans and the environment. In high concentrations, it can cause respiratory damage when inhaled and destroy plant life by restricting photosynthesis. To summarize, there are 2 types of ozone. Stratospheric ozone. This ozone performs the essential function of absorbing and reflecting harmful UV rays from the sun. Ground level ozone. This ozone is generated from pollution and is harmful to humans' health.
Okay, I was thinking it was the stratosphere. Yeah.
In conclusion, ozone occurs naturally in the stratosphere and troposphere, with the highest concentration found in the stratosphere. It is essential to life on Earth because it absorbs and reflects harmful UV rays from the sun.
In this module, we will discuss how chemicals used in refrigeration systems destroy the ozone layer. We'll also take a look at the effects of ozone depletion.
In the 1970s, scientific research discovered that some human-produced chemicals were destroying the ozone layer.
Ozone molecules in the upper atmosphere absorb most of the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays before they reach the Earth. These rays can cause skin cancer and other health problems. A group of gases called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, may pose a threat to the ozone layer. Chlorofluorocarbons are chemical compounds made up of atoms of chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. CFCs are used as refrigerants and to make plastic foam insulation. Because they are gases, CFCs can escape from poorly sealed containers into the atmosphere. Once CFCs are in the upper atmosphere, scientists believe a chain of reactions occur that destroy ozone. First, high-energy ultraviolet rays break chlorine atoms free from the CFC molecule. These free chlorine atoms can react with other molecules in the atmosphere. When a chlorine atom reacts with an ozone molecule, it steals one of the ozone molecule's 3 oxygen atoms, forming a molecule of chlorine monoxide. The remaining 2 oxygen atoms form an ordinary oxygen molecule. In this way, an ozone molecule is destroyed. Chlorine monoxide reacts easily with single oxygen atoms in the atmosphere, leaving a free chlorine atom that can destroy more ozone. Scientists estimate that 1 chlorine atom can destroy as many as 100,000 ozone molecules.
As mentioned in the video, the main chemicals at fault for this destruction are CFCs, which stand for chlorofluorocarbons, and HCFCs, which stand for hydrochlorofluorocarbons. CFCs and HCFCs are categories of refrigerants. They were once used in almost every refrigeration and AC unit before it was discovered that they were destroying the ozone layer. The most harmful refrigerants in terms of ozone depletion are CFCs. This is because there are more chlorine molecules in CFCs than HCFCs. When CFCs and HCFCs reach the atmosphere, UV radiation breaks their bonds to release their chlorine atoms. These free chlorine atoms bond easily with one of the oxygen atoms in the ozone molecule, and in the process, break apart the ozone molecule. Each chlorine atom destroys an ozone molecule as it binds with one of its oxygen atoms to form chlorine monoxide and oxygen. The chlorine monoxide molecule moves around the atmosphere, colliding with more oxygen atoms. Single oxygen atoms bond easily with the oxygen atom in chlorine monoxide. This means a single chlorine atom can break up multiple ozone molecules before it disintegrates. CFCs can last 70 to 100 years in the atmosphere before they are naturally broken down. During this time, chlorine atoms repeatedly destroy the ozone layer molecule by molecule. This is why a single chlorine atom can destroy up to 100,000 ozone molecules.
Get a little distracted there. I'm gonna see if I can charge my phone. Potentially. Oh wait, I can. Because I can use my laptop charger. If this don't work. I want to say fuck that. Use my laptop charger. And it's still on. Oh yeah. Ooh, what could? First things first. Let me get the. I wish I could do this on my phone, man. Would be nice. Have like TV and do this shit. It's like I feel like I've already given out enough free game for right now. So later, learn some basic shit again. I'll do some learning to myself.